Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice for radio. So today, I am delighted, because I am showing you another Tag Team GX that's been winning over in Japan. I've shown you a bunch of these lately, but here's the thing. I'd shown you 4 out of 6. I had not shown you a Latias and Latios Tag Team GX winning deck. I didn't have one to show you. Well, now I do. As you should know by now, the lovely Code64X did send us his list over on Twitter, and all the translations of the hereto unreleased cards, at least outside of Japan, do come from the lovely David Hochmann. Well, of course they do, and it's all built around Latias and Latios Tag Team GX. Now, long-time viewers of the channel will know that the baby Daisy spirit Pokemon is Latias, because when she was, and I'm not exaggerating here, 10 minutes old, I was telling her all about Latias Prism Star. And so news of this Pokemon, this card doing very well, makes me very happy. So let's start off by reminding ourselves what Latias and Latios actually does. It's a Tag Team GX, which means it gives up free prizes, but it's got a rather bulky 250 HP, which is quite nice. Plus a weakness to Fairy, which is not ideal with stuff like Sylveon and Gardevoir running around, but it's not the worst weakness to have at the moment. And really here, there's one attack we're largely concerned about, and it's Buster Purge. Buster Purge, Water, 2 Psychic, 1 Colorless, 240 damage, discard free energy. Cool. Essentially, this is just used to smash. This is used to get one-hit KOs on any GXs and the vast majority of Tag Team GXs. Even something like an Eevee and Snorlax, you'll need a choice band, but that's fine. You'll still be hitting 270. The only one you won't get is Magikarp and Wailord with its 300. It will be slightly out of your range, unfortunately. And essentially, the deck revolves around trying to get enough energy onto Latios and Latias so that you can do this turn after turn after turn. And again, the usual reminder here, I'm showing you these decks in Japan. I'm never going to show you decks which people think might be good or etc, unless there's a really good reason. No. I am showing you decks which have done well, lists that have won. That's what I'm doing in most of these videos. So, how did they actually do it? I should actually say there is a GX attack here. 1 Psychic Energy, attach 5 basic energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. If you've got at least 1 extra energy attached to it, then prevent all effective attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. It's a way of accelerating energy while getting immunity. But we have some other ways of accelerating energy here, and we start off with Malamar. Malamar is your go-to for Psychic Acceleration at the moment. Once during your turn, you may attach your Psychic Energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon. And that's how you get the energy on. Now, you can't get Water Energy in this way, and that's a little bit sad, but it gets your Psychic Energy, and remember, the attack cost here is Water, 2 Psychic, and a Colorless, and then you discard free. So you can essentially put a Water on with free Psychic, discard them, and then get 3 more Psychic, discard them, 3 more Psychic, discard them, and so on and so forth. Malamar helps you out very nicely indeed. What I do find strange, it's a free 4 Malamar line. Free Inkay 4 Malamar. But really all you're doing there is just trying to lower the amount of basics you've got so that you've got more chance of starting with a Pokemon you actually want to start with. And then 4 Malamar so that you can get that evolution as soon as you can. And then we see Starme here. Now, I've done videos about all of these Pokemon that have not been released yet. I'll pop links in the description. But what I find really cool about this, I actually suggested this as a way to accelerate energy onto Magikarp and Wailord. Here it's being used onto Latias and Latios. And what it does for a single colorless energy, search your deck for free Water or Psychic Energy cards and attach them to one of your bench Pokemon, and then shuffle your deck. And it's got free retreat, which is wonderful, because now you've got something to have in the active after a KO, after a Guzma, etc. And if you're really relying on Tag Team GXs here, you can have your opponent KO a Tag Team GX, they've got 3 prizes left to take. They can then take down 2 Starme and have 1 prize left, but if you've only got Tag Team GXs on the field, you can make them KO a Tag Team GX when they've only got 1 prize remaining, and actually play an 8 prize game. You can play this deck without any Malamar whatsoever, and just rely on Starme. Though please do remember what I always say about things like this: if you're attaching energy to the bench with this, your opponent can just Guzma and then attack whatever you put the energy onto. We see a Tapu Lele just to help yourself get that turn 1 supporter, it's fairly important. We see a Ditto Prism Star. I mean, look, you're playing 2 different stage 1 lines. Ditto Prism Star's pretty gosh darn great because it can evolve into any of them. And a couple of Giratina. Now, Giratina does 2 things here rather nicely indeed. Number 1, it's a non-GX attacker. It is a 1 prize attacker. We don't have any good 1 prize attackers. This does 130. And there's a whole bunch of Pokemon out there like Granbull, like White Kyurem, like Buzzwole, who do have 130 HP. And taking them down with Latias and Latios just isn't a good use of resources. Giratina comes in nicely. But don't forget the ability, if it's in the discard, pop it on the bench, 1 damage counter to each of 2 bench Pokemon, that could be fun. Oh yeah, and a single copy of Eevee and Snorlax Tag Team GX. Because as much as this is a Latias and Latios deck, and it is, this is still a phenomenal card. 270 HP, a different weakness, which is very important, because if you're against a Sylveon deck, you cannot play Latios and Latias. Eevee and Snorlax have got your back. And then 4 energy, 120 damage, 240 to an evolution Pokemon. So if you find yourself against an evolution deck, this is pretty gosh darn good. Not to mention a GX attack here, 4 energy, 210. But if you've got 5 energy on there, draw till you've got 10 cards in hand. Latios and Latias' GX attack, accelerate energy, get immunity ready for next turn, is good for setting yourself up. But in a lot of games, this might be a preferable GX attack. So that's it. It's Malamar, but it's also Starme. You've got your 2 big Tag Team GXs and your non-GX attacker. And I like this very much indeed. Now, the trainer line here is largely straightforward, with the exception of Viridian Forest. Viridian Forest, I did a video about this, link in the description, you know the deal. It's one of those that we really needed, because we have no great energy search at the moment. This is a stadium that says, once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand, and then search your deck for a basic energy. Firstly, you need to find that water energy, because you're not going to be playing as many of them, because you only need 1 per Latios and Latias. And secondly, it's actually quite nice for discarding psychic energy, so you can then accelerate it using Malamar. We've already seen this in a couple of decks coming out of Japan, and I think this is only going to increase. We then see 4 copies of Nest Ball, because that gets all your basics out. We see 4 copies of Mysterious Treasure. Now, it only searches out Psychic or Dragon Pokemon, but your Starmie Psychic, and your Malamar line is Psychic, and your Latios and Latias is Dragon, and your Tapu Lele Psychic, so that sounds fine to me. Couple copies of Choice Band, because like we said, sometimes you all need to get that little bit of extra damage. 2 copies of Switch, because when you attack with Latios and Latias, you discard free energy, so you're probably going to want to then get it out the active, onto the bench, so that you can accelerate energy back on using Malamar. At which point, Starmie with free retreat is awesome. 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher to get your Pokemon back out of the discard pile. We see 4 copies each of Lily and Cynthia, because they are the best draw supporters we've got at the moment. So we play 4 of each to get set up. A copy of Erica's Hospitality. This is coming up in more and more decks, and honestly, I think this is only going to increase. You cannot play it if you've got 6 or more cards in hand, including this. But then you get to draw 1 card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. It's really good as just draw power. And we're going to be seeing this in a lot of decks moving forward. Get used to it, frankly. Get used to it. 3 copies of Guzma for dragging Pokemon off the bench and KOing them, but also, as we've mentioned, it's a Switch and Switch is useful. and then a single copy of Ace Roller, because we are playing Tag Team GXs. They've got huge HP and give up free prizes. Wouldn't it be really useful if you could pick them up to stop them giving up free prizes before they got KO'd? I love seeing decks like this. I love that Latias and Latios is doing well because Baby Daisy's Spirit Pokemon. I love that it's got Eevee and Snorlax because I love me some Snorlax action. And I love seeing cards like Starme actually being good and seeing play and getting a little bit of love. It's wonderful. I think this deck is awesome. But I want to know what you think about this deck, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please remember the most important rule as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays for some more Wassy action. But by far the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.